September 10th, I had just come off for vacation, and I was in Pennsylvania Dutch, and I actually got home midnight. So I literally went into my house, went into the shower, got all my uniform stuff out ready because I have a 5:30 shift, so I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I laid it down for about 2 or 3 hours to get up and go right back to work on September 11th.
I was living in the city, and every night before I went to sleep, because I had a really great view of the Twin Towers, so I could lay in my bed, and right between my feet were the Twin Towers. So I would see the twinkling lights and imagine the people working there.
The night before 9/11, unfortunately, I was at work because I handled the international settlements, and I had to work on a very large trade with Hong Kong, and having to work on their time frame, which were hours difference from us, I was there until 9:30, 10 o'clock.
The night before was just like any other night. September 10th was Monday night. It was unremarkable, normal, and not particularly unusual in any way. There was absolutely no sense of anything different that was going to happen.
And on September 10th, 2001, it was a proud moment for me. I returned to Tottenville High School, where I was a student, as a substitute teacher.
It was a rainy day, and finished up my normal 11-hour work days and got home roughly around 7 o'clock, 7:30, and sat down, had dinner. There were talks of the weather clearing for tomorrow, and so that was nice. Wouldn't have to walk in the rain.
I'm at work, and I think about the night before 9/11 quite a bit. I was working at 24, the night into the day. So I get to the firehouse Monday night for 6 o'clock tour till the next evening at 6 o'clock. But yeah, I changed my mutual around so that I had to see my cardiologist about something. And I had to take my kids to school Monday. It might have been the first day of school, I'm not sure, at the elementary school.
It was just a regular normal night, me coming home from work, taking care of the children, just a regular routine night, nothing different.
On September 10th, I was preparing for another work day in New York City.
Yeah, I was working, I worked for a corporate actions firm. We'd actually agreed the night before to come to work an hour earlier. So that's something that definitely, wow. It's definitely something that that I remember.
The night before 9/11, it was just another night, watching TV, having dinner, going to bed early.
Nothing really, just hanging out at home. Didn't go anywhere. Didn't work. Was doing the next day.
It was the first week of school. I was 8th grade. I was my last year at the school I was at. I was excited. We were the big kids on campus now.
The night before 9/11, that's life before 9/11, so it's a totally different world. You just didn't realize it.
I worked for a virtual health system, and I was working a 911 ambulance, response ambulance. Took an extra shift for somebody, 4:30 in the morning to 11:30 in the afternoon. And I was in the middle of that shift when we got the page. And so I will never forget where I was.
It was remarkably beautiful. A clear day, there wasn't a cloud in sight. So the cold front for that September, it wasn't really cold, but it's a cold front nonetheless, had cleared the air of all of the pollutants, so you could see forever, clearly and sharply.
It was this beautiful, extremely clear, perfect day. It could not be more perfect. Crisp, clear, you felt invigorated. Very happy day, very good day.
And it was a beautiful day. The sun was out, there wasn't a cloud in the sky, it was dry, sunny, crystal clear, perfect late summer day. And my thought was, how much better could it get than this?
As far as the weather, was a gorgeous day, the best day you could have ever seen. It was visibility. I said to myself, why am I going to work and I could go to the beach? It was beautiful. Spend the day with my children.
Like the guy said, low humidity, absolutely drop dead gorgeous day.
It was a beautiful day. It was a very nice day. It was clear skies, it was just maybe a puff or two of wind, just enough to comfort you.
And it was just a beautiful, lovely, gorgeous Tuesday morning, absolutely normal, except that I was going in early.
I could remember, you know, how clear a day it was and how beautiful a day it was and how there was nothing you couldn't see from the Staten Island side.
It was such a gorgeous day. We were hiding underneath the trees because it was starting to get a little bit warm, and in the ambulance you can get warm very quick, and I hate air conditioning. I'd rather have fresh air than air conditioning.
September 11th, 2001 was a beautiful blue sky day. It was unusually beautiful, and I noticed that. As the events unfolded, they really came from out of the blue, and that's literally and figuratively speaking. When these planes entered the tower number 1, the North Tower, it was right out of the blue sky. No one could ever have anticipated. And in fact, when it occurred, it was incomprehensible what had happened.
Well, my normal get-up time was around 3:30, 3:45 in the morning. Allowed me time to leisurely get prepared in the bathroom, of course, with the shaving and showering and whatnot. Walk down to the train station. Get there normally around 5 o'clock. Gave me plenty of time to start reading the paper. About 25 minutes trip into Newark and transferring to the PATH train. The PATH train is operated by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. And of course, my destination would be the World Trade Center, which was another 22-minute trip.
Got on the PATH train and came into the World Trade Center like I'd done every other morning.
I took the number 1 subway, 7th Avenue line, as usual. There was a stop within the concourse of the World Trade Center.
Just a regular day. I used to take the subway in from Penn Station, come into the World Trade Center, take the elevator up. I remember seeing one of my neighbors who didn't make it.
I got there maybe 20 minutes late. The Brooklyn Battery Tunnel was packed, bumper to bumper that morning. So I know afterwards everybody said they were late, a lot of people.
I got on the bus. I would take the bus and get off basically right in front of Century 21 and walk through the plaza. There was the farmer's market that was going on that morning, and I stopped and I bought a loaf of bread from the Amish bakers and I put it in my backpack, which also had my computer in it.
That day I decided I was going to take the 4-5 down, and I took the 4-5 down to Wall Street.
Went to work. I was one of the deans of the school. So I was working in the cafeteria at the time for, you know, late breakfast, early lunch, whatever it was.
My middle girl, Jackie, said, "Daddy, you have to take me to school today. It's picture day." I said, "Well, get your rear end moving. It's 7:30. I got to be at work at 9. I dropped her off at school at 8. Beautiful day.
I got to work about 7:30 that day. As I was busying myself on the phone with a gentleman from our London office, we made a connection to Brooke from Cantor Fitzgerald to resolve the very same trade that I was working on the night before.
So I proceeded, I went to the office and I followed the signs for Tower 2, and just as I'm doing right now, I pulled out my ID. And on the reverse side is the barcode that you put over the scanner. So it scans you in. I get off the elevator. I went to my desk, just like I did. And it was around 8 o'clock in the morning. And I put my pocketbook down, like I have here. I put it down.
This particular morning, we were scheduled to make a demonstration of 9 new doors on the observation deck that we had just put security access control systems in place on them. And we were going to demonstrate them to the manager of the OBS deck for his approval to bring them into the system and turn them on for 24-hour duty.
You get there, and as much of a hassle as it was in the morning, just going up that escalator and seeing Welcome to the World Trade Center was just, it was like a gush, you know, it was a good feeling.
As I'm walking into the building, I'm looking up at the building, I'm saying, oh my God, look how giant this building is. I've only been working here 6 months.
I had my cup of coffee from the Roach Coach, and then I went upstairs, started my day.
And I went and I sat at my desk, and I logged on to my computer.
Probably about 8:15 or 8:30, thereabouts. And as usual, I just turned on my computer, reading email, and as I had done for many years and still do to this day, I was enjoying cinnamon raisin bagel and a cup of coffee. It was very quiet, unremarkable.
Normally in the mornings, we have a 9 o'clock group meeting with the management. So I get ready for that. I get in about 8:30. I used to take off my shoes, get my coffee, drink my coffee. And then usually at about 5 or 10 to 9, my friend Brian would come down. He's also one of the senior managers. And then we'd go into the morning meeting, which was in a conference room, 2 offices from where I was. And I was on the 79th floor.
I had a nice routine in my life. I was waking up every morning at 6 a.m., no alarm clock, feeling good and ready to go. I looked forward to each day and going to work and doing a good job. And I remember taking the boat, the Staten Island ferry, into Manhattan. I was on the 8 o'clock boat. The boat tied up in Manhattan at 8:30, and I got on the subway to go uptown, a couple of short stops, and when I exited the subway at Houston Street at 8:45, things took a very big change.
Yeah, dispatcher. Yes? There's off-duty firefighter Jermaine. I guess you got this already. But you got a plane crashed into the World Trade Center. You aware of that? You have a plane that crashed into the World Trade Center in Manhattan? World Trade Center in Manhattan. Where are you calling from? I'm on Barrett Street in Manhattan. Barrett Street in Manhattan. It's the North Tower, World Trade Center. North Tower? North Tower. You got... And the phone number you're calling from? I'm on a cell phone. I'm an off-duty firefighter. My name's Jermaine. Okay. It's the North Tower, Vichy Street. You got Vichy Street side. Okay, thanks a lot. Send them all because you got major fire on the upper floors of the World Trade Center.
We heard something on the regular radio that plane went into the Twin Towers, and I just looked at Jen. I said, this is just not even funny. So the radios are all blaring at this point saying there's an MCI, which is a mass casualty incident at the World Trade Center, and it was a small plane into the tower.
I watched, my pager went off. It was 8:46 that we were paged out exactly when the first tower was struck. Called my supervisor and he said, we already have somebody en route. Go home, get your dog.
I looked up and I saw this huge hole in the side of the building. I didn't expect to see that big of a hole. I was astounded by it. I had worked in the building for 5 years and knew that many floors meant that was a tremendous hole. And if that was coming out that way, I could imagine that, even the incoming hole would be tremendous.
We felt this rumble. The building started to shake a little bit. We sort of looked at each other and said, what the hell is that? And about that time, the radios went off. We've just been hit by an airplane, Tower 1. Big fireball, huge explosion. There's flames and smoke all over the place. There's debris falling. There are papers all over the place.
When the first plane hit, it woke me up. So I was actually asleep. But I didn't know that's what it was. And I looked around and I thought that something had happened, but I really hadn't heard anything. And then I looked out past my toes and I saw an amazing amount of smoke. And went to the window, and when you're that close, it looked completely different than on television, which I didn't turn on. because you could see the flames. The flames were 3, 4, 5 stories high behind the windows.
At that point, there was, which looked like the sun that was going to come through our window. It was the explosion from the other building. I basically saw that and just ran to the next stairway and just headed on down.
I stepped off the elevator, and it must have been right at 8:46, because when I stepped off the elevator on my floor, and what I heard sounded like they had dropped something heavy upstairs.
And I hear bang, bang, and I felt the building sway. And then I look up, and I see the nose of an airline plane come through the tower across the plaza.
I heard a blast it was about 7:45 or 8:45. And all of a sudden, all my phone and Brooke said, "What the hell was that?" And I was like, "I don't know." And I felt the building went to the left and came back to the right. And my coworker, Chris, pulled me and said, "Get down, we've been bombed."
And then I continued to just, head into the office. But before I could even get into the office proper, people started coming out of the office saying that a bomb had gone off somewhere.
But then at about 1:45 or thereabouts, you heard something, and you looked out the window and you saw the people just scurrying out. And they looked like ants coming out of the ground. And then I saw papers flying around, so it was obvious. We didn't know what happened, but it was obvious something happened. The building rocked. Like in a train, when a train center comes to stop, and that's what it felt like. And that's when I think everybody changed.
Somehow became aware that something had happened. This was just after 8:46 a.m. when the first plane entered tower number 1. I looked out the window, and what I thought I saw was confetti rising, going up. And I thought this strange. What I later realized was this was not confetti. These were 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, but the enormity and the scale of the buildings made it appear as though these were just small pieces of paper. And I could see that tower number 1 was on fire, and I could see the enormity and the extent of the damage.
We just had a plane crash into the upper floor of the World Trade Center, transmit a second alarm, and start relocating companies into the area. The World Trade Center, tower number 1 is on fire. The whole outside of the building, there was just a huge explosion. All companies stand by at this time.
It still wasn't, the pulse wasn't beating too hard yet at that point. And then one of the guys, I guess the house watchman, came running in, and he goes, "The South Tower was just hit. I saw the plane fly right up the East River, or the Hudson River part is there." And he goes, "We're under attack. It's a terrorist attack." And I have to tell you, I felt like I got hit in the head with a hammer. I was like, why didn't I see this? What was I thinking? And I was like, wow, really? And then we really started focusing on the news. But then we got the response ticket to go. We were assigned on the 5th alarm for the South Tower.
I'm on the FDR drive. Definitely something hit the second tower. Approximately 2/3 of the way up. You got visible fires showing out there. Suggest to the Infamy Commander coordinator to transmit a 5th alarm to Tower 2. Brooklyn to Manhattan with an urgent.
The second plane looked like it was actually coming toward us. Very, very low. Me and him looked at each other and were like, what is going on here? And we watched the second jet tilt and make a U-turn almost directly over the building we were at. And we watched it heading toward the towers. Neither one of us could believe it. We watched, and sure enough, I was on the rooftop of the building when the second jet hit the second tower.
The second plane hit while I was inside the building, so I didn't see the second plane at all, and I knew nothing of a second plane until I went home. and was watching the whole thing played out on television.
And while I was talking to him, the second plane hit. And it was a 60-story fireball that came at me. And it was astounding, and I couldn't speak. And so I just said, I have to call you up, and turn the phone off. And I think I couldn't hardly make any phone calls after that, because then my phone went dead.
And the plane hit right in our 4 floors. I think that my friend, based on the facts that I know, and some personal facts I don't want to talk about because his wife told me, but he was instantly hit. He was at his desk, and when the plane hit, so I think it was instantaneous. There was no,
When we were watching the screen when the second tower was struck, and that's when people really started freaking out, but in a really organized way, in a way of, I need to get out of here. I would rather take my chances somewhere else than to just be a sitting duck. And that was really the mentality.
By this time here, the second plane does hit. We know it's an act of terrorism, and it takes on a whole new complexion at this particular time.
But I can assume that out of the many things that I felt and heard, there were a series of them that probably took place around 9:03. The ground shuddered. The building groaned like I have never heard it groan before. And I get another radio message. It says, "We've been hit by a plane. Tower 2, blah, 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 blah." And I'm saying, wait a minute. Say that again. Tower 2. And I said, okay. I can't accept that. I cannot reconcile or accept the fact that there's a possibility of a second plane hitting.
But at that point, I also, not only was everything kind of like rumbling, but there was this noise that sounded like a freight train, really, but it was coming from the sky. And I remember looking up and looking to my left because that's where the sound was coming from. And I was expecting it to be, I don't know, a helicopter or something because, the other building's on fire, so there's got to be people, coming to rescue people. And what I saw was Flight 175, and it looked like it was going to hit the building that we were standing right in front of. And then it kind of did this dipping turn, right at the last second, and then slammed into the tower that we had just come out of.
And I looked out and I saw the plaza filled with steel and glass and concrete, and I thought, oh no. So I said, "Come on, Regina, come on." And just as I finished that statement, Tower 2 was hit. And I felt the ground shake under my feet, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is like the earthquake. And I looked at this watch, and it was exactly 9:03.
I think when we got on the 60th floor was when the plane hit our building. And it shook, definitely felt the building shake. Now people are running down the stairs. There's coffee spilt on the staircase, trying to get down. And these 2 men looked at me and said, "If you want to see your son, we need to get out of here." And they literally, arm for arm, pulled me down those stairs till we got to the bottom. If it wasn't for them, I would never be here today.
But when that when the second tower was struck, that's when it really came over us. Are we dead? Am I having an out-of-body experience that I somehow know that I'm going to die today? And I don't want to.
In the time from I left the museum to the time that I arrived at the scene, there was another impact, which I was not aware of. So now the incident became twice as large. It was already enormous. I knew when I saw the impact, I knew there was going to be many, many deaths. I knew there was going to be many civilian deaths. I knew a lot of firefighters were going to die. I knew that when I saw it.
We had a large fire to fight, and we had a great possibility of losing a lot of people, especially at that time in the morning. I had worked there, and I remember seeing thousands and thousands of people coming in that trade center from the path train alone.
You have this tremendous volume of fire. You have a logistical situation that is so high up in the air. How do you deliver the manpower and the water and all the necessary tools and equipment to begin fighting this thing? And you're fighting it from underneath.
And we're just running down the stairs, and I'm going, oh my God, what's going on? And I'm smelling smoke. I'm smelling like fire. I'm going down, and I see a firefighters coming up, and I said to my, they're going up with the hoses on their shoulders, and so I said to one of the firemen, I said, what's going on up there? He goes, you don't want to know? Just get out of the building.
The only thing in my thought was for me to get the hell out of there. I wasn't thinking about, oh, these poor people. I was just thinking, oh my God, I need to be gone,
I saw a sea of humanity and people screaming and running. And I could hear announcements, but I couldn't hear what was being said because everybody was screaming.
My file stopped at the 7th floor, and we looked over, but we couldn't go further because there was an elevator that fell between the doors and the steps, and you could see people standing up like this, and I knew they were dead.
The plane hit around the 93rd floor, but in doing so, the plane took out all of their escape routes. The stairways, the elevators, they were all taken out by the impact of that aircraft. And they had only one more option, because if they weren't burned to death, killed on impact, or suffocating from the smoke, they had one more option. You make your peace with God, and you take that other option, or you stay with one of the other options. And that last option was to jump.
And we started going down West Street, and we're looking right at the North Tower. The people jumping on North Tower like crazy. I remember seeing debris and glass and stuff like that you see in an office, and body parts. I remember seeing a woman's calf from the knee down with a high heel shoe still on it. And it was just like, it was surreal. It was from here down. And a nice calf and a high heel pump on it. And it was just sitting there like a prop.
We just got caught up, and the people are chained and jumping and, shaking your head like, don't jump, don't jump, don't jump. But in your head, you're thinking, well, suffocate, burn to death, or jump. None of them are a good choice, but I don't think I would want to suffocate, and I don't think I would want to burn to death, so I would jump.
But what I realized is that I was seeing pieces of the building, probably pieces of airplane, but at the time all I thought of was pieces of the building that were on fire. And then I realized that I was also seeing people.
I saw many horrible things. There was jumpers coming around us. The ground was littered with body parts. It was pretty horrible. I was traumatized.
As we're waiting there, you hear the young kids, look at this, and it was the poor souls, jumping, and I didn't want to look, because you knew that they were in their last seconds of life.
We were about to go back into the building, and all hell broke loose.
This is an EMS worker. There's been a major collapse. We need additional units forthwith. Tower 2 has had a major explosion and what appears to be a complete collapse surrounding the entire area. There's been a major collapse in the tower. The command center out here, everybody it was a major collapse. I'm in my rig right now.
The South Tower now is starting to implode. The fireball is following us, so we're running away from a fireball towards Financial One. The fireball hit Financial One, sheared a part of it completely off, and the area we were in, that section entombed us with all the debris that was coming off of the South Tower as it was imploding. At this point, we're buried alive. There's no way out.
Somewhere in proximity to the plaza of the South Tower, en route to entering the South Tower, when the building started to collapse. The building that was hit second collapsed first, so it went faster than the North Tower.
At that point was when the first tower, our tower, started to come down. And I thought, this is it, I'm gonna die here. So I started to run.
And then we get this great trembling thing, you know, going on. And it's building 2 coming down. I said to myself, my God, you know. And then it came over the radio, our radios, that, yeah, the building 2 came down. And we were ordered to evacuate.
Came back out, and I just started taking some pictures when the first of the buildings started to fall. And the person I know standing right next to me fell to the earth. And you could hear this noise that came from everyone, this sound. And then it hit, and then you heard the rumble go through the subway. Actually, a black fellow walked through the park and yelled, "The white man's world is coming down." And it was like this moment where, because everyone was like half dead, there's this whole, you couldn't imagine how many people were dying right now, and it would be lost.
But I never thought it would collapse that way. I always, in my mind, pictured the building kind of toppling over. It was.
When we looked up, we saw the top of the tower rotate. We could see from the bottom, coming up this way, and we could see looks like what the floor was in this building. But as soon as we captured that image, it was totally obscured by this huge cloud that blanketed out everything. And then the only thing we had was this tremendous rumbling roar, like huge boulders, an avalanche coming down a rocky mountainside. And then you hear this thunder and loud sounds, and the building is starting to shake and vibrate. And the mind is racing, and I'm saying, all these thoughts instantaneously going through. But there's another part of the mind that's operating too. The back part of the mind is saying, hey, stupid, wake up. That building isn't here. So we turned around and said, I think it's time to get the hell out of here.
I watched the building, the first tower come down right from my school building after I knew my brother was there.
You heard the popping, and then you just saw the tower leaning, the south tower coming towards us, and we ran. It turned black as night. Everybody started gagging, vomiting, you know, trying to get your mask on. I put my mask on. It was full of whomever and whatever.
We watched on the screen as the first building tumbled down. And it was almost as if we were forgetful of where we were standing. It was as if we were watching it from somewhere else. It was surreal. Like, I can't even explain surreal. And as we're watching the building go down, our windows go and it goes pitch black outside. And the only way that I've ever described it was as if somebody had taken black magic marker or black Sharpie and covered all of our windows. You couldn't see.
I thought it was the end of the world because blackness covered the entire downtown Manhattan.
You could hear the sound of the upper floors, what we call pancaking. And at that moment, I believed that was the end for me.
And one of the guys says, hey Cap, it's coming down. So I look up, and the top of the south tower tilted right over us. It appeared to be right over us. Before it went down, as it came down, it started to tilt south, is where we were now. Like John said, it started to pancake, and it was almost in slow motion. You could almost see it going floor by floor, like poof, poof, poof. And it only took like a fraction of a second to see all this. It takes longer to tell about it. But you could actually see each floor just like slowly pounding. I remember tucking into behind the buttress and putting my arm over the guy next to me, might have been Owen. And I thought a couple things, and it was a split second. I thought, this is gonna hurt. And there isn't really time to pray. And I remember my last thing was, so this is how it ends. And that was it.
Even in my best day, I wasn't that fast a runner. And with all the gear on, I wasn't going to outrun the collapse of the building. There was no anticipation of me other than that I was sure I was going to die. I was expecting a big blast of energy. When I'm thinking, in my mind, I'm thinking this building, 110-story building is collapsing in front of us. I said, I'm probably going to get blown to bits by the impact of it coming out. I felt all energy being drawn away from me. We were in some kind of void or in an area where the air was being sucked back in. There wasn't much sensation around you. I had a Scott mask on. You couldn't see anything. You couldn't hear anything. The only process that I had was the thoughts in my head. And I kind of thought that maybe this is it. Maybe I died.
We went to the North Bronx, and I remember it was pretty high, the Bronx, height-wise, looking down to the city. And we got there and went to the top of one of the buildings, and one of the towers had already collapsed. I could see the plume. And it looked so odd to me. Like, I know the city, and it just, I couldn't even believe what we were seeing.
Oh my God, you believe this is happening, man? It's down. Yeah? It just went down. The whole tower just went right down. Look at my arms, how much goosebumps are on me, dude. It exploded, and now I don't see the other tower. There's only one standing, isn't there? The one on the right's gone.
Our breathing was getting more raspy and more raspy and more raspy. And I remember saying to myself, you know, God, just take care of my family, my friends, and whoever else is out there. Because we were pretty convinced at that point we were going to die. Because we know, especially with our training, that superheated air and a closed area does not hold oxygen very long. It didn't occur to me that we were still alive because I really thought we were dead. And I really resigned myself to the fact that we were going to die and be found standing up, all 30 of us.
And then all of a sudden, I hear people screaming. And then I see smoke. And then I see like a fireball come up a street. And then I'm feeling wind. And when I tell you this wind was like a tornado, people were starting to hold on to I had to literally hold on to a lamppost. And I couldn't see it from where I was. So I wasn't too sure what it was. And I see this man holding on to the lamppost. I had to hold on to it too because I couldn't stand up. It was like strong wind. And then I'm saying to myself, oh my God. And everybody's screaming, run! The smoke started coming more and more. And I just kept running. And then I'm saying, oh my God, I don't want to die. What is this? And then I just kept saying my prayers. I didn't realize how strong my faith was that day.
And you could see down the side street, we just run, you could start to see the blowback from the collapse going down to my peripheral vision. The side streets, you could start to see go down. And then blackness and soot that you couldn't breathe. Normal smoke, you go up, even if it gets thick, you can breathe it for a while. Couldn't breathe it at all. I was still saying the top of the building fell off. I was like, nah, it's just the top. The top came down, because my last glimpse was it tilting, and I'm thinking, the top 30 floors came off, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And the guys were telling me, this, he goes, no, the whole building came down. The whole building came down. So we're waiting. It was still pitch black outside. And we finally ventured out. It was like snowing outside. It was just white. It was a white haze, and it was eerily quiet. My handy-talkie, I hadn't heard a thing since then. I tried to get on handy-talkie and say 220 to command, 220 to, I changed stations. Nothing.
Can anybody hear me? I'm a civilian. I'm trapped inside of one of your fire trucks underneath the collapse that just happened. Stand by, there's people close to you. I can't breathe much longer. Please save me. I'm in a Caspian truck.
And as I crawled deeper in, everything started to shake, and I got trapped. Pitch black, stuff came in behind me, and I'm stuck in this hollow. And I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. Screaming, no one heard me, nothing, and I really thought I was going to die. I thought, this is it. But I went through that horrible panic, confined space, and I was trained for confined space. I remember I prayed to God. And I wasn't a religious guy or nothing, but I guess that's the time, like, this is kind of it. Please, don't let me suffocate here. Take me quick, and somehow let my kids know that I was doing my best down here. That was like, came to my mind. And just when I said that, I mean, this is my life-changing moment while I was there, I had the gift of holding my 3 infant babies in my arms. Like, I actually, like we're sitting here right now, naked, beautiful, my 3 kids, a boy and 2 girls, and the smell of the baby smell was on them. And that was so unique for me because there was nothing but the horrible, putrid smell of death at Ground Zero. It was, anyone who you're going to talk to will recall, of all the things, that smell. So now I'm smelling babies and holding them and seeing them. So to me it was real, and God was with me, and I realized for the first time He doesn't come from far away. He's inside of us, and you just ask Him to be with you, and He's there. And I said, look, I'm ready to go, but if you allow me to stay, I'm making deals now, I promise to dedicate my life to serving you. Whatever that is, that was it, came out of me. Something told me that I had to go further down. I don't know why. It's the opposite reaction of where I should go. And it kind of illuminated, go this way. And I kept crawling down and feeling my way over and under and through. So I eventually made my way south, and I came up under the lobby of the Deutsche Bank building, which is one of the buildings they just took down, across the street. I have no idea how I got there. I came up through the sub-basement and opened the side door, and all the lights of Ground Zero were shining, and I just looked. I said, thank you.
We're on 57th and West Side Highway. Let us go down west and get back to you, let you know what's going on. Well, Charlie, the operations post, the command post is going to be set up on West Street. They're moving completely out to West Street. That's correct. I'm in contact with Chief Fian and Commissioner Fian, and that's where we're going to start moving out of further collapse zone.
We got to the corner, but we had just run down, where I'd seen the debris coming. And when we got there, I think we're still deciding whether or not we should do a search or we should head to the water. A little gray there, but I knew we wanted to get over to the other side of the financial area. And with that, we felt the rumbling again. And that time, we kind of just knew that was the North Tower coming down. I think one of the guys mentioned it. That's the North Tower coming down. And we headed down that street that we were on and ducked into another building a little later than this one, and waited for the same thing, blackness, waiting for it to end. And that was just the start of it. It was stuff like that for the next, I don't know how many hours or minutes, I have no idea. It seemed like an eternity. It seemed like running from one place to another. Just debris all over the place, like snow, and quiet. Yeah, that's how the morning went.
We walked to West Street. I guess we got a block down, and you could hear the rumbling. And we ducked into a hotel, and then you could see just a cloud of black again. And people asking, what do we do? I told one lady, cover your baby up and get on the Staten Island ferry and go west. Get out of the city, don't come back. Leave as soon as you can. From what I understand, it registered as an earthquake somewhere in the United States at 3-point-something.
We were all in stages of shock, and Owen Carlock then suggested that if the South Tower came down, that the North Tower was going to collapse also. It was a very wise thought. I think we were in 75 West Street when the North Tower collapsed. And we knew what it was. We knew what happened. I was in shock. I was in total shock. It was my worst fear. Happened. It happened, and I was shocked.
We started moving towards where our sector was, and the ground started shaking again, and all of a sudden it sounded like train, tornado, bomb, all at once. It was just overwhelming. The second tower had just fallen, and we were running for our lives again.
And
I was about 30 yards, maybe less, from the building. Did I hear the building start to crack? And I looked up, and I saw it. I saw it starting to come down. And I started to run. And I said, I can't outrun this thing. You know, I'm thinking in my mind, of course, I can't outrun this thing. And I jump underneath the fire truck that was there. I had no anticipation that I would survive. I had no thoughts that this building falls down on that fire truck. I'm not surviving. There's no possibility. I'm going to get crushed anyway, you know. So of course it didn't surprise me when I was unconscious. And then it came to. At first, I thought I was dead. It was a very spiritual experience. Rather beautiful. It was just light. Clear, bright, white.
Was there once a time when the world was young and unafraid, when we sang of wondrous dreams and were proud of all we made? Was there once a time when the world was wide and true and real, when each word was fresh and free, and each life was held and healed? Was there once a time when the song came lightly to my lips, and the music danced and played in a kind of trance kinship? Once upon that time, if the world breathed heavy on my back, I could find the strength to sing. I would find a right lyric.
And unbeknownst to me at that time, one of the fatalities that occurred by somebody jumping was Father Michael Judd, who was the chaplain of the Fire Department of New York. Sometime later, I would find his helmet, carry that with me on my egress.
When I had seen some of the pictures come through of some of the folks who had been injured, I saw that one of them was Mike, and he didn't look good. And it turned out that Mike had died giving last rites to a firefighter who had been hit by a jumper. And he was hit by a jumper. So Mike was carried to St. Paul's Chapel, and they laid him on the altar. And he's a saint. I really miss him.
the nicest, most kind, loving person in the world. You know, he did everything for my brother and I. He was always around. I know his calling in life was to be a firefighter, but he loved being a dad.
People die when they're supposed to. I can't even imagine seeing him grow old. I can't imagine him becoming feeble. I mean, we were as close as you could possibly be. He had a calling. I mean, it's what was supposed to happen. He died a hero. You can't measure grief. You can't say my pain is worse than your pain. You can't measure someone's loss. You can't measure someone's love.
Got to the point where I had to pick and choose which funerals I was going to go to. I just couldn't go to all of them I wanted to go to.
I went to 27 different funerals for the guys, and they were, each one of them was gut-wrenching, you know? And you think you get callous and immune to it, but you don't. I know I thought I cried every tear out. You know, I said, how am I still crying for these guys? Like, I didn't think there was anything left.
People, and I think Americans, can get through almost anything. There's really not much that you can, the spirit that people have when things are down, no matter how dark and you might feel things are down, just persevere. Things will get better.
But I think the majority of people who did what they did and answered the call on 9/11 at Ground Zero, I think they're a great tribute to America. They are the American tribute. Like, that's who we are.
That was one of the hardest parts too, dealing with the aftermath. Seeing the newspaper the next morning, seeing all those pictures, seeing a photo of someone I used to work with years back, someone that worked at Buchanan Fitzgerald, seeing the pictures, and I said, oh my God. Like for a few seconds there, I forgot what happened. Then I seen the paper and I said, oh my God, I'm looking. And I'm saying, Jesus, this really happens? I don't understand it. This really happened. It's horrible. It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare for me for a long time afterwards. Dealing with the fact that I survived and they didn't. It's a very hard thing to deal with. And I said to myself, why? You know, you wonder why. You're grateful. You're thanking God you survived. But why did those people go when I survived? And you have to deal with the guilt. And it's not an easy thing.
For a long time, I held on to a lot of guilt of the decisions I made that day, you know, life and death decisions, along with my partner, Jen.
I've thought I wish I was killed. Absolutely. I've thought that. I wish I was one of them. I'm glad I'm not one of them. I wish I was one of them. I should have been one of them. Maybe I didn't do my job enough. Maybe I should have went to the South Tower earlier.
I thought I was going to die, and I didn't. And I'm still dealing with that every day. It's a good thing. I'm glad I'm here, and I'm trying to be productive with my life, and I think I am. And I know that I was spared that day for a reason. It wasn't my time. They didn't get me then, and they're not going to get me now.
It is by no means my doing to being here today, and I attribute the fact that God has called me for, or spared me for bigger and better things. You can't live your life in fear. And so I live every day as if it were my last day. Not all of self and none of thee. It's all of thee and self will do.
This is history. This was history. We have fighting in Ireland, and we have fighting in Israel, and we have fighting in Libya and all over, but it's not home. We don't live with that fear of going outside the door and something getting blown up or attacked. And that changed the face of history. Now it has come home. And it's hit us very hard in the face. That day or that week, those months, I saw the root of what this country was founded on. The goodness, the compassion, the volunteering. And I was so very proud. Amongst all the tragedy, I was so proud to be part of this. I learned that things weren't quite as important. I didn't need the biggest house. I didn't need the newest car. I really opened my eyes up to what was important in life. I just wish people would take the time to stop in their busy lives and look at what they have and be thankful for what they have, because there's always somebody worse, and we have so much here.
You know, love your family, hug them 10 times more than you ever did, because the real things that matter are those things. I made millions in my aerospace life. I traveled the world. I stayed at the best hotels, first class, you name it, and drove the most beautiful cars. And I thought that's what life was about. That's what we're striving for, right? To get as much as we can. Now, Monica and I, we struggle to make ends meet, but there's a love that God's blessed us with it's so far beyond anything you can dream of. But it's because you've followed through those footsteps of that tragedy, and you do realize what's important, and then God gives you that gift.
There is a huge lesson that was learned working at Ground Zero, and that was America coming together as one group.
But we as Americans, we cannot forget what we consist of and what we still have. And we forget that, we're going to be forgotten, and we're going to forget what we're about. And we're not going to have that position anymore. And we still do, and we still can even more. And that's something that I think we all worry about and we all are concerned about, especially if you have kids or if you don't have kids, you're still here surviving.
9/11 has given America, it's a wake-up call to say that there are enemies among us and they need to be identified.
The World Trade Center was an event that the enormity of which was unprecedented. The loss of life was incomprehensible, and it was an event given the media and the coverage that brought the entire world together. We were all focused on this event, and I believe that we should remain focused.
My message would be that, that hopefully that we can all learn from this, and that somehow, through some miracle, that we can all live in peace. It's kind of unreal, the whole experience. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and think, just didn't really happen. But I know it did. And as I stated, I'm glad I'm here. And I'm very happy that I was given the opportunity to do my job with very good men, and that we did our job, and I'm very proud of that.
God allows us to do this, and that's why our money says, "In God we trust," and everything this nation is from its founders. I think once we turn our back collectively on God, God forbid He turns His back on us, because without Him, this nation and our way of life is nothing. And again, this is no particular religion. This is just knowing that there's something so much grander and more magnificent than we could ever hope to be. And once we think we're the tops, we're going to the bottom.
And so I am deeply thankful to have been part of this experience, to relate it to others, to say that there is always hope, and that through adversity we can become much more satisfied in our lives and appreciate all of the wonderful freedoms and privileges in this great United States.
To whom much is given, much is required. Those men and women, all of us have been given so much, even if it's not tangible. We have been given a home or a place called America, a land of freedom, and it's worth fighting for. It's worth fighting for.